Hello, I'm back. Welcome back to my world of stuff. I'm back in the room. As promised, coming back to you when I've got some interesting content or something interesting that I want to talk about. Today I've got two very interesting things to talk about. I've got two movie reviews. Not one, but two movie reviews. Let's crack on. Yes, it's me, I'm back. As I said in my video last week, I was putting the channel on a bit of a pause, but I will be back to do reviews and things of certain things that I felt I wanted to talk about. And there are two films that I've seen in the last week or so that I need to talk to you about. Obviously, the first one is Doctor Strange in the multiverse of madness, which I'm literally just back from seeing. It's Thursday when I'm recording this. And also The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, starring Nick Cage, which I saw last week. I thought I'd do them in one video rather than do two separate videos. That's something I might do in future, just do a little catch-up on films or TV things that I've seen. But anyway, let's not mess about. Let's crack on with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Well, anyway, I'm just back from seeing the new Doctor Strange film. It's the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe blockbuster, much awaited. Delayed from a couple of months ago, which was slightly frustrating. First film directed by Sam Raimi from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, stars, of course, Benedict Cumberbatch as Dr. Stephen Strange, with Benedict Wong as his faithful... well, actually, he's the Sorcerer Supreme now. He's become the Sorcerer Supreme, Wong. We've also got return engagement for Chiwetel Ejiofor as Mordo. I'm trying to be careful about spoilers. I don't want to name names of people who are in the cast that you don't know about it. But if you've seen the trailers, you'll know that Rachel McAdams is back as Christine, Stephen's love interest. So yeah, I'm trying to avoid mentioning characters because there are surprises. There are some, I'm not going to call them cameos because there's actually a bit more than that. But there are some appearances by some other characters that Marvel fans will know. That's all I'm going to say at this stage. And of course, we do have Elizabeth Olsen back as Wanda Maximoff. Because that's all been in the trailer. So that's no surprise. So what did I think of this film? I thought it was terrific. I really did think it was good. I was slightly concerned because even though I don't read the reviews religiously when they come out, and they come out the last couple of days, I just have a look to see what ratings they give them and generally what the flavour has been. And some of the reviews have been slightly iffy, I have to say. They've not been massively positive. And I have to say, I'm not entirely sure why, because this was... I thought this was a visual tour de force. Sam Raimi has brought something new to the Marvel table. I mean, we know him from the Evil Dead films. You know him, of course, from the Spider-Man trilogy back in 2002 and onwards, which in many ways was a precursor to what Marvel are doing now. And but he's brought not only his knowledge and his presumably love of superhero cinema, but he's brought that dark side of his nature from the Evil Dead. This has been described as Marvel's first horror film. And I think it probably is. I mean, it's not in-your-face gruesome horror, but there's some sort of quite strong images and quite strong sequences from Marvel film. And a fair bit of blood. There's a bit of body horror. I'm not going to call it tame, but if you're a Marvel fan and are not used to this level of dread, apprehension, terror, that sort of building feeling of, things getting out of control here. So he certainly brought that visceral edge to things and given this film a gutsier feeling than many of the Marvel films. Because much as I love Marvel films, we know there's certain things we're not going to see. There's certain things we are going to see. But this goes over that line a little bit. But I think within reasonable boundaries, I would say this is not really suitable for very small kids. I don't think 6-7-year-olds would possibly be able to cope with some of the images in this because it is startlingly in your face in places. And there are sort of jump scares. It does that sort of thing. So the core story basically is that Doctor Strange is as we know, he's not the Sorcerer Supreme now. He goes to the wedding of Christine, his ex-girlfriend. She's now marrying. He goes to the wedding, but the wedding is interrupted by the arrival in New York of a ferocious and giant one-eyed octopus-type creature, which is thrashing its way through the streets, and is clearly in pursuit of a young girl whose name is America. Now, I'm afraid I can't at this moment remember the name of the actress, but I'll put it here. She's a newcomer to Marvel. Strange manages to leap into action. He throws himself off the balcony at the wedding, becomes Doctor Strange, and manages to fend off this ferocious creature with quite a nice bit of body horror there, with the way he sort of dispatches it. It's a bit brutal. He starts to get acquainted with America, who, it transpires, has a special ability. She can transport herself between multiverses, the universes, as we've seen established in previous Marvel films and the Loki TV series. She has the power to effortlessly and seamlessly travel between the multiverses. But something or someone is after her. Someone or something wants her power and will stop at nothing to get it. Strange decides he needs the help of another supernatural or very powerful being that he knows. So he goes to see Wanda Maximoff, played, of course, by Elizabeth Olsen. We last saw her about a year ago now in the brilliant WandaVision series. We know how that ended up. She's now living out in the countryside, but she's got her own demons. She has dreams about her missing children. Of course, the irony is that her children didn't really exist. They were sort of constructs from her own imagination for the purposes of the whole WandaVision Westview setup. But as far as she's concerned, they're her kids and she wants them back. So that's been her motivation throughout WandaVision. Strange tries to enlist her to help him fight off this power that is chasing after America. And the whole story leads into this extraordinary freewheeling, but not actually incredibly confusing narrative where Strange eventually finds he can cross the multiverse with the help of America, because he needs more assistance, and he needs more assistance from different versions of himself. And that sets off an extraordinary and cataclysmic chain of events, which leads him into different universes where there are different versions of certain characters. This is where I'm going to be very careful, because I don't want to give away the people who turn up. I mean, if you've seen the trailer, you'll know one character who turns up, or appears to turn up. So I'm going to keep away from all that. So just generally, I want to just it's very difficult to go into all this, but because there's a lot of dangerous spoiler territory here. But I just thought this was a just breathtaking visual spectacle. I think the problem with the first Doctor Strange film, directed by Scott Derrickson, which incredibly came out 6 years ago, I think that it was the first opportunity for Marvel to get involved with the whole sort of supernatural magic-y type thing. And I think that perhaps the narrative and the visuals are slightly confusing. In this, I think Sam Raimi has done a good job of making us quite easily able to follow the action, even though there's a lot of CGI, there's a lot of colour and whiz-bangery, but the story comes front and centre. We know what's going on all the way through the story. We can follow the story. And it's an intriguing story. A lot of people have said the story is very simple. I suppose it is in some ways, but it's quite labyrinthine in the way it gets to where it's going. And, there's a lot of sort of MacGuffin-y stuff about the Book of Ashanti and the Book of Darkhold, all these MacGuffins which power the plot. But they're things that we know of, we've heard of before in the MCU, so they've not just been plucked out of thin air for this film. I really want to say lots more about this film, but I appreciate that I can't. But it is an absolute thrill ride. It's... sorry, just distracted. It's just astonishing. I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch is Doctor Strange. He really encapsulates that character. Elizabeth Olsen is terrific as Wanda when we see her in the film. It's just a thrill ride. The visuals are stunning, and there's very clever visual bits. There's one scene where Strange is having a fight with one adversary, which involves the use of musical notes, which he brings to life, and the music that is being used, it plays as part of the battle. It's fantastic. There's a couple of traditional fights, so there's a bit of something for everybody. And it does do what Marvel does at its best. It has emotional heart. It has emotional resonance. It touches the heart. Makes you care about these characters. One of the sort of overriding themes of the film really is Doctor Strange. Is he happy? He is this extremely powerful sorcerer, but he's alone. He doesn't have his soulmate. He's got to travel through life as this costume superhero with these extraordinary abilities, but the love of his life isn't by his side. And that sort of touched on a little bit about the idea of happiness and how happy a person with extraordinary power can expect to be. So it's a lot deeper than I think a lot of the early reviews have given it credit for. So I think if you do look at those reviews, look at them with a pinch of salt, because I think a lot of these reviewers have missed certain subtleties in the film. They probably need to see it again. I loved it. I thought it was great. It's another shot in the arm for Marvel. I mean, rarely put a foot wrong. And I know I'm a Marvel fan, almost an apologist in a way. But, I'll own up when something doesn't float my boat. I will say so. I wasn't fussed on the Eternals. I'm struggling with Moon Knight. I haven't watched the last episode yet. That hasn't connected with me. But when they hit the spot, they hit it right in the bullseye. And that's what they've done with Doctor Strange. Marks out of 10. I was tempted to give it a 10. But I'm going to give it, although I can't fault it really, no, I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. I just thought it was terrifically entertaining. 2 hours flew by, and I loved it. There are post-credit sequences. There's one, which unless you're very familiar with Doctor Strange comic history, you won't understand it. I had to look it up. And there's a very amusing, very quick few second one right at the end, which is very nice and refers to a joke earlier in the film. Great. Go and see it now. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is in your cinemas now. You get out there and see it, why don't you? And my other film is the new Nick Cage film. It is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Yeah, I picked up these posters. I went to see it at my local showcase. They were giving away these posters. This is stars Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal, Sharon Horgan. It's directed by Tom Cormacan. I'm sort of a Nick Cage fan. I wouldn't say I religiously watch all his films, but I do appreciate that he is one of Hollywood's more maverick actors. He'll sort of, I won't say he'll do anything, but he does the most extraordinary films that a lot of actors of his reputation, not necessarily caliber, wouldn't do. And he does a lot of films which lately have gone straight to video, things like Pig, which I think is quite well regarded, which came out fairly recently, and the one whose title escapes me, about the giant puppet things that come to life. I can't remember, even though I've seen it, I can't remember the name of it. So he does a lot of these bizarre projects, and that's the persona that we're sort of getting in this film. It's very clever, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. It was great entertainment. It's about, in a way, it's a bit like Curb Your Enthusiasm if you watch that. It's like a version of Larry David, but isn't really Larry David. And this is Nicolas Cage as Nick Cage, who isn't exactly Nicolas Cage, but it has many of those characteristics of Nicolas Cage that we're used to from seeing his films. He plays a version of Nick Cage who is getting a bit disillusioned with acting. He misses out on the acting role of a lifetime in a serious sort of drama, which he thinks he'd be ideal for. But the director decides to go in a different direction, and he decides he wants to give up acting. He's just had enough. But unfortunately, as his manager, played by Neil Patrick Harris, tells him, he's massively in debt. He's offered the opportunity to travel to Ibiza to entertain a millionaire businessman, which will write off all his debts. So, almost reluctantly, he decides to take this booking for financial reasons only. When he gets there, he meets up with this character, Javier, played by Pedro Pascal, who is a huge fan of Nick Cage, and he has actually written a screenplay that he wants Nick Cage to appear in. But when he gets there, he's also accosted by some CIA agents who are investigating Javier because he is apparently a massive drugs dealer and a terrible international criminal. So they want Nick Cage to do a bit of undercover work to get some more evidence, get some more information about him. But unfortunately, Nick gets on quite well with Javier. They become sort of best buddies. And he reads the screenplay and is very invested in it and wants to get involved in the film. It's just crazy. It's such good fun. It's very, very funny. It is laugh out loud funny. Nick Cage's tongue is right through his cheek. He's really, and you got to admire him. You got to, the fact that he is quite willing to take the rise out of himself and his public persona, people's perception of him. That's what he's playing to here. And it is riotously funny. It's laugh out loud in so many places. There's some great stunts. At the end, there's some really good action scenes, a fantastic car chase sequence. It's got a lot of heart as well, because in the film, this version of Nick Cage is estranged from his wife, played by Sharon Horgan, and his teenage daughter. His teenage daughter, like most teenage daughters and sons, I imagine, operate on different social levels to their parents. They don't really connect, and she's embarrassed by him. but he wants to get close to it, but he can't quite do it somehow. And there's a scene where he goes to a 16th birthday party, makes a complete ass of himself by singing this terrible song that he wrote with him under the camping trip. But it's got a lot of heart to it, and it just makes you like Nick Cage even more, I think, really. He's not afraid to have a laugh at himself, which I think is commendable in an era when, you know, Hollywood stars, such as they are these days, are a little bit precious, a little bit precocious, and take themselves a bit too seriously. Nick Cage don't do any of that, certainly not in this film. Again, great film, still in cinemas. It's not going to be around for long. I think it's already slipping to sort of late night screenings or evening screenings. So if you want to see it, catch it soon. I really recommend it. It's great fun. That's The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent with Nick Cage is in cinemas now. So it's a really good double bill of films at the moment out there. Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness, and Nick Cage, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. And I'm going to give Nick Cage's film, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Right, that's my reviews of the 2 latest films that I've seen. Thank you for hanging on in there. Did say I'll be back. Don't know when I'll be back. Well, actually, I do know when I'll be back, because I've done another video which is coming up on Friday, which is a little commentary on the situation with Netflix and sort of the future for streaming services, following the news that Netflix have lost a considerable amount of subscribers in the last few months and expected to lose more. And just wondering what the future is going to be for streaming in the post-pandemic era. There's a little 10-minute video on that coming up tomorrow. And then as and when. So like I've said in my video last week, you know, there won't be things every few days, but there will be things as and when I decide, I'd like to do a video on that. So if that interests you and you want to stick around, then you press that subscribe button, please. And the like button, leave a comment. If you've seen Doctor Strange, let me know what you thought of it. If you've seen The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, let me know what you thought of that. Right, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate your time. I'll see you soon. Until I do, keep taking the stuff.